Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 CIH Presidential Get-Together. I think we had a briefing for this event, and I think no dress code was the thing I noticed. So, which is a little bit different to CIH Presidential dinners that we are all used to. And I don't know about the rest of you. That I think my last big night out before last year's lockdown was the CIH Presidential dinner in London with Aileen's speech. And who on earth thought that we were going to be where we are today? But it's fantastic to get together in online. I want to say massive well done to CIH, who I think have really led the way in putting on virtual events. We have got the chance to network. We've got the chance to hear from a couple of great speakers. But before we start the event proper, I just wanted to welcome up onto the stage and give a massive thank you to our sponsors who are Lovells, and we are going to hear from Mary Parsons. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Alison, and thank you. And on behalf of all of my colleagues from Lovell, welcome. We're really pleased to be able to still support this key event in the CIH calendar. It is a very different event today than last year, as Alison says, but I think it's a real reflection of the resilience and the innovation of the sector that actually, despite everything, we can still get together, albeit virtually. And it has been, just what a year since we were last together. When COVID was something at that time, we were just starting to actually understand what it might mean. No one could have seen what was to come. And so as we get together today, I think it's a real chance to reflect on the way that the social housing sector rose to the challenge. And we kept delivering, both in terms of the essential services to customers and in delivering much needed additional new homes. And I can't help but feel a real pride to be part of a sector that has done so much to help those people and communities in the greatest need at this time. The support you've given your customers and the leadership and the commitment that has been demonstrated by the sector throughout this terrible year is frankly incredible. We've all pulled together, we've all worked across every sector, and for a partnership business like Lovell, that is really the bedrock of what we do. We have, though, all faced personal as well as work challenges this year. I think in this part of the lockdown more than ever. And that's why we're so pleased to be supporting the event to raise money for the Shine a Light campaign. We're all here to help each other stay strong, so please give generously and please take the time to find out more about the work that it can do. I really hope that during 2021 we can all build on the incredible work we've done to develop a stronger sector and a housing profession that's fit for all of the communities we serve. This year also marks actually the 50th anniversary of Lovell's first partnership scheme. It's a real milestone we hope that we'll be able to celebrate with you over the coming months. And it's an opportunity for us to look back at what we've achieved, but also to reflect how society and the sector we all work in has changed and how the lasting partnerships we still have today have been formed. But it's also a chance for us to learn and to look ahead and plan for the future. And we hope to continue the conversations with you over the coming months to help shape that. So I hope you all enjoy today. And I'll now hand back to you, Alison. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. And thank you once again on behalf of everyone at CIH for your sponsorship. So just to let you know what's going to happen this afternoon, in a moment we're going to have our CIH President Aileen Evans up on stage. Aileen's going to talk to us, and then we're going to have a bit of a conversation, during which time we will be shamelessly asking you to support the presidential appeal, and you can donate really easily on this platform by going on any one of the Shine a Light icons on the screen. If you want to tweet, if you can use the Twitter hashtag CIHPres21. Show us where you are, where are you listening from. Has anyone dressed up in their sparkly best? Show us where you are and what you're doing. We're then going to have another break for networking, and that's one of the real advantages of the platform that CIH are using, that it does get you give you the opportunity to meet colleagues, sit and have a chat, see what other people are doing, a chance for to meet our regional and devolved nation boards as well, to hear about events that are happening in your part of the world. And after that, we are going to hear from the incredible Ebony Rainford-Brent. She's going to talk to us for a little while and then answer questions. And again, opportunity for networking at the end. So it's great to have well over 150 housing professionals here at the moment. And I am going to be joined on stage now by someone who is an exemplar, really, to me for what is a housing professional. So please, Aileen, come and join us. This time last year, I remember you had your hair up and it was looking lovely. I remember you spent ages getting ready and practicing your speech, and we did expect that by today we'd have our wonderful Vice President Jo Richardson at the live event. The world's changed since then, and I think everybody would just love to hear your reflections on the last year and what the future holds. Thank you.
I'm not sure I can predict the future, but I can talk a little bit about the past. So thank you, Alison, for that lovely welcome. And thank you, Mary, and thank you so much to Lovell for supporting today's event. It seems longer, doesn't it? Much longer than a year ago, since I had all the curls in my hair and my slinky black frock. And I told all friends and colleagues at the presidential dinner how proud I was to be CIH's president. Well, if I was proud then, I'm completely filled with pride now. My speech last year made no mention of the pandemic, and yet a few short weeks later, we were all in our first lockdown. We have been, everybody in the world, we've had a truly terrible year. Lockdowns, redundancies, travel bans. Over 2 million people worldwide have died, over 106,000 in the UK, and that's millions of families losing loved ones, often after prolonged periods of separation, because this dreadful disease has really shaken us to our foundations. And just yesterday, this awful disease took one of our national heroes in Sir Tom Moore. But through all that hardship, agony and heartbreak, as Mary talked about a moment ago, housing professionals across the UK and CIH members around the world have risen to the challenges that we and our communities have faced in ways that showed more than ever what a dedicated, caring, innovative and inspiring profession we are. Never before have people, including some of the most vulnerable in our society, understood how much we can do to support them when they need it. Never before have we been more deserved to be considered as key workers, even first responders, I think, for many people. But we can't and we won't rest on our laurels, because there's still a big job to do, isn't there? Firstly, because it's not who we are. And secondly, because we all know that when we finally close the case on COVID, there'll be more challenges to face, continuing to improve our services, engage with and listen to our residents more effectively, build and maintain homes truly fit for the future. I think we've learned something about the function of homes over the last year, haven't we? Later this year, the world's leaders will gather in Glasgow to debate and hopefully agree the next steps to meeting the challenges of our changing climate. For us, that means new ways of building, but also new ways of powering our existing homes in ways that deliver zero carbon and, most importantly, and we mustn't forget this, affordable heat and power for people. But there are other changes that we know are coming. I doubt we'll ever go back to the levels of commuting and office working we had in 2019, for example. But how many of our homes are really fit for remote working? How many of us here have worked from the sofa while our families watch the telly, or use the ironing board as a desk? How many of us have discovered that without the daily walk to the bus stop or the train, we do almost no exercise unless we make ourselves? And how many of us are looking at where we live and thinking, if it wasn't for the office, I wouldn't live here? We need to look afresh at what homes we're building and providing, where they are, the spaces they offer. It's a huge challenge, I think, for the sector going forward. And we need to build more of them because COVID is a housing disease. The worst infection rates have come from the most overcrowded areas. The COVID death rate in England's poorest neighbourhoods is more than 2.5 times higher than that in the richest areas. Actually, we should hang our heads in shame at that. I said last year that home is where we start from. It's proved to be so much more than that over the last year. 1 in 5 children live in poverty. It's time we address that, and building the homes we need is a fundamental part of that work. I know that we will meet these challenges just as we have met the challenges of COVID, because as the professional body for housing, the CIH will do more than just talk you up. We'll do that, of course, but we'll also support you to demonstrate to colleagues, to other professionals that you work with, and everyone you work for, that you have the skills, the knowledge, the experience, mindset, and ethical underpinning to inspire and deserve their confidence. That's why later this month we'll be introducing our professional standards. I am hugely, hugely excited about this and the work that the CIH has done on this. An easy to use toolkit to allow you to check how well you reflect the attitudes and behaviours that residents, tenants, customers expect and deserve. The standards reflect the breadth and diversity of people who work in housing and can be tailored and relevant to everybody across the profession, whatever your role, position or specialism. They are both relevant for the environment we live and work in now and flexible to meet the challenges of the future. They're adaptable to work alongside existing organisational competencies and values, and some organisations have started looking at doing this already, and they will inspire the people who want to work in housing to celebrate the value and values of our profession. The standards will be on the CIH website in a couple of weeks. Trust me, the team at CIH and colleagues across the sector will make sure you know about those. So take a look, try them out, have a look at them and see for yourselves. Alison and Mary have already mentioned one of the greatest challenges we've faced this year. For many of us, maintaining our mental well-being has been challenging before, but I doubt many of us have had to cope with so much disruption to equilibrium as we've had in the last 12 months. Lockdown loneliness, remote working isolation, fears that furlough is just a step to redundancy, and of course the need to support people who themselves are facing or can be facing some serious well-being challenges. Our new housing white paper, which we broadly welcome, mentions mental health 22 times, and the government are also currently consulting on a major reform of the Mental Health Act, long overdue in my view. We had a mental health crisis before COVID, we have an even bigger one now. One of the issues that the mental health proposals need to address is the race inequality in the system that sees those from Black and minority ethnic communities four times more likely to be sectioned and detained, for example. I spoke last year about race and diversity following the death of George Floyd, and as with housing, we need to see deeds and not just words as we work to ensure that our society is more just. So I decided to make shining a light on mental health my presidential campaign, because I know from my own family, many of you will have heard me speak about that, my own life, how huge an impact it can have, especially as for so many people, it's just not something we talk about. That's why I set up Shine a Light, to raise awareness, to get us all talking without fear of stigma, to raise our game, to get us all as housing professionals to take responsibility for supporting ourselves, our families, our colleagues, our friends, our tenants, customers, and also I want to raise a bucket load of money to support the work of Mind. So that's there it is again. There's no such thing as a free do, is there, after all? So you can find the Just Giving page's address, as Alison mentioned, in the networking lounges. Please, can you help me out here? Be great. We're at 37 and a bit thousand. Be great to get over 40,000, I think, before the end of the week, if we could. That will pay for 2 workers at Mind's helpline, and they save lives. I am not in any way embellishing that. Those people on the other end of that phone save lives and help people in crisis. So it just remains for me to say thank you for coming. Thank you all for everything you've done last year, and for all you're going to do in the future. I knew I was going to be a proud president of CIH. I just didn't really know how proud. So thank you. Thank you so much for everything you've done.
I want to stand up and clap, Aileen, but I'd probably look a bit daft. But I am clapping. Thank you so much for that. It says on my little briefing from CIH, it said Alison and Aileen to chat for 10 minutes. But I'm not going to ask you how your kids are, which is normally our starting point. There's just a few things in your speech that I just wanted to pick up on. We've seen the housing sector do incredible stuff. I was reflecting earlier on everybody in. We've once again, we've seen how we can end rough sleeping, but not for the long term. We're still in this. What message would you give to government? I think, as the leader of our sector at the moment, what words of wisdom would you have for Robert Jenrick?
We can't solve a housing crisis and we can't solve a homelessness crisis without homes. Actually, we need to build. It was one of the things that was missing from the white paper for me. Probably the only big thing that was missing from the white paper is actually we need serious proposals that properly tackle the affordability crisis and the shortage of properly affordable social rented homes. That's the thing that, if you look at housing costs as part of the stats around something like 1 in 5 children live in poverty. Actually, that poverty in part will be caused by a lack of affordable housing and high housing costs. It'll also be caused by high fuel costs and other issues. But actually, we need to build the homes we need. We've produced research, the Shout campaign, CIH, Shelter have all produced research that says not only in the long term will it address poverty, will it address homelessness, will it address those feelings of desperation? Because, we talk about these things as though they're big things. Actually, these are people we're talking about, and it's people's lives. It will address those things. But actually, over the long term, building properly affordable homes saves the taxpayer money. Why wouldn't you want to do something that housed people well, gave them a great start in life, and also saved the taxpayer money? It's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. So come on, government, let's get the job done. So
if you're listening, Rob, that's what you need to do. One of the things when I think it's 3 years since I was CIH president, and one of the things I really enjoyed about that year was traveling around the country and regional boards and colleagues in the devolved nations, and just especially for John Hannigan and in the Republic of Ireland. Obviously, you've not been able to do that. I don't know about you. I've been blown away by the work that's still carried on in the meantime, and the resourcefulness of that offer, I think, to members has been great. Have you been able to do much interaction with our members during lockdown?
I've done loads, and in some ways, although a bit less enjoyable because I'm not traveling to places and seeing people face to face, meeting tenants face to face, being amongst our communities, I have been able to drop into a few more organisations and see people. One of my aims was to start a conversation, and if you want me to come and start a conversation in your organisation, then for a donation to Mind, I will happily come and talk about mental health in your organisations. But I've been doing loads of that, and people have been really kind, and they keep inviting me. I've done a bit in construction. I'm doing a talk for the Institute of Internal Auditors next week. So the word's kind of getting out there. And so in some ways, I have been able to do more of the going virtually to organisations, less of seeing people and hugging people and, you know, just feeling the warmth of people. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that I miss that terribly. But you know, I think the CIH has really produced an A game. You know, very nimble, very fleet-footed. The briefings during lockdown, weekly briefings, the conferences and events that are put on have been first rate. I've been really, really proud, not just of everybody in the sector, but of the CIH and my professional body too, because I think they've done a great job. So it's been different. It wasn't what I expected, but I think we've not done a bad job nonetheless.
And I think we've got a couple of events coming up. Maybe somebody from the CIH team could put something in the chat. But we've got some brilliant events coming up that will be free to members. So, you know, please come along, particularly to the London and South East conference coming up next month. Can I give a shout out to this? Will make everyone else hate me, and I do like to be liked. But a shout out to CIH Yorkshire and Humberside, who put on some cracking, simple, straightforward conversation events. Regular, frequent, with some really, really interesting people, and I hope we see much more of that. You know, I think in a way it's democratising, so people who wouldn't be allowed out to, you know, get the travel paid to go to an event can join in and meet their colleagues and other professionals, can't they?
Yeah, they did a fantastic quiz for Mind and raised about £500, I think, and the Marks and Spencer's vouchers that were for the winner have also been donated to Shine a Light. So I'm going to raffle them off at some point, so that we can make a bit more money out of them. So yeah, no, regions have done fantastic jobs. Really, really, really good stuff. So it's possible to have fun. I've been challenged. I did get a challenge to dye my hair purple. That raised about £1,000, and then, which I did, of course. And I've been challenged to do a life lessons from Dolly Parton quiz or presentation. So look out for that at some point in the future, because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to manage that, but it'll be good fun.
So I think Dolly, I mean, be more Dolly is.
Yes,
you know,
yeah, no, absolutely. We all need to be more Dolly. I think she's a remarkable human being, but yeah.
So we've got a couple of minutes left. We've got to have a bit of you've mentioned the white paper. Hopefully a bit of a game changer. Engagement on the agenda, something that's very close to my heart, and I know to you it's something that you know, what was it? I almost forgotten Grant Sharp's name, but not quite. In the bonfire of the Congos.
Yes.
And it's great that we are going to see some proper of particularly engagement. Michael Green,
Yeah, I've seen Greg.
That's the man. It's going to mean maybe for some of the sort of newer entrants to the profession who, you know, haven't experienced the audit commission and the TSA and inspection around consumer standards. Why do you think that how do you think that CIH is going to be able to help to meet that need?
Well, I mean, I think there's the stuff around professional standards. Why wouldn't any organisation listen to their customers? Why wouldn't, you know, I get surveys from Marks and Spencer's or people all the time asking me what I think. Actually, we have not only that responsibility to listen, and the CIH professional standards and the training and education work they do will support us in that, but we have an accountability to them. You know, if the people who live in our homes pay my wages, actually I am here because they're there. That gives me that responsibility. So I think it's a shame that we've had to put some standards around it to make some people do it. But nonetheless, I think it's I hope it will be a game changer in changing the relationship between landlords and our tenants. I think it needs to be, and I hope that people will embrace it and see it as something positive to encourage and support better conversations. So please, please look at it in that regard. I think, you know, I've had a conversation with a regulator only last week about it, and I think they will regulate this in a very rounded and mature, grown-up way. I think that, and the CIH will support us to deliver those standards and the things we need to do.
Brilliant, thank you. Two things. A message from Shan up in North Wales, wanting to invite you to North Wales Wish.
Yes.
You must go, it's cracking. Although I did discover when I went up there and stayed in this little tiny cottage on the top of a hill, that it's where they then had, I'm a celebrity, get me out. Don't go and stay there because honestly, you know, just be careful. Go and see North Wales Wish because they're an absolutely fantastic group of folk. And I'm going to leave you with one question before we finish. So you've got a question coming on the chat from Paul Seymour. What would you want to see the outcome to be as far as reform of the Mental Health Act is that will make a real difference to tenants and communities?
A much more person-centred approach and proper resources devoted to it. I think one of the things that there are loads of reasons why I chose mental health, my personal experience, that of my family, but I was sitting in our housing team one day and somebody said, has anybody got the hoarding spreadsheet open? We have a case management system to do it now, but a case management system to manage hoarding cases. Just let that sink in. And hoarding is a symptom of poor mental health, and actually the people aren't getting the support that they need. And we have a very we're dealing, you know, it's Desmond Tutu who said, if we want to stop fishing people out of the river, we have to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. So actually what I want is those mental health services that help us support people before it gets to crisis. That's what we would have welcomed with my husband. You're not actually able to get that support until you are severe or critical, and by that time, you know, somebody's probably already died or they've self-harmed. And so I think what I want to see is a person-focused approach with appropriate resources devoted to proper community health, community mental health services. The number of children. The other thing that I would say to everybody, I'd leave you with one thought: talk to your children about how you feel. Don't grow up in a home where I couldn't talk about feelings because nobody in my home talked about feelings. Actually, if we want to create rounded, mentally healthy adults, we need to start encouraging them as children to tell us how they feel. Having 10-year-olds in A&E because they have self-harmed, or the school I was on the governing body of, a child attempt to commit suicide because they were unhappy, is really, really poor. So let's sort it out.
Thank you so much for that. We've only I've got a message from Adele saying we're running over, but only a little bit. So we're going to stop now, but we will be back to have more of a chat towards the end of the afternoon. So we've got some questions coming in, we can deal with them then. But for now, I just want to say for being our president and such a brilliant president. You can go and make yourself a cup of tea, go to the loo, well, do what you like. I mean, that sounds a bit bossy, doesn't it? But we will be back at 3:15 with Ebony. So see you later, everybody.